So we have Analivia, who is a daughter of Waldemar Cordeiro, and Bronac, talking about being a daughter and being studied his work.
I just said at the outset how pleased I was to be invited to both contribute to the catalogue and to this conversation today. Thank you all very, very much for coming. And I, like you, look forward very much to hearing Analivia tell us more about the wonderful work of her father, Waldemar Cordeiro. So, Analivia, I'd just like to start by asking you what kind of person Waldemar was.
Okay, first of all, I want to thank James, Christine, and you for the invitation, because it's a pleasure to talk in front of real people, not online. So it's very nice. Oh, okay. My father, first of all, he was very beautiful and tall, and when he would go in a place, everybody would turn and look at him. So he had no problem when he wanted to talk to people. And the only point that was not clear to me was what the Second War left on him as a scar, let's say. Because during the war, he was with her mother, and the two brothers went to the war, and he was in Rome, Italy, with the bombs, everything. So sometimes he had reactions to noises. And I was always a little, it was scary, you know. Sometimes he was talking and then there was a firework, something, and he stopped and then he had to go to leave the place, and this was something strange. And he was very much Italian. He had a strong Italian accent. He was a very emotional person. And when I went to Italy, the first time, I had the impression that they were fighting the whole time. It's not. They were just talking. But the way they do it, it's loud voices, and they get into the behavior is very emotional. So she would talk about rational things like concrete art and theory in a very emotional way. Then people love this. And in Brazil, he was kind of alone, because at that time there was no art schools, so people did not have too many books to read because it had to come by boat, you know. So sometimes he would talk about things alone, like teaching people from things that were common subjects when he was in Italy, for example. So he did not have with whom to exchange too much. And he had these friends from Italy his whole life just because of this. So he was an European in a tropical country. That's it.
Thank you. And I know from...
I have a few pictures that you have to know. Here it's Julio Carlo Argan, you know. And here he was working in a newspaper in Italy. He was tall. And here was when he got angry, you know. Had this after this he explodes. He look at you, these eyes, and then the Italia comes out. And here this was 3 weeks before he died. He had a heart attack with 48 years old. He was sleeping actually. I think it was heart attack. Okay.
And then I think that just reminds me, I know from previous conversations that he had a strong influence on your own approach to art. You're also an internationally renowned artist, choreographer, one of the first to use technology in dance on screen. Mm-hmm. What are your most intense memories of absorbing those influences from childhood onwards?
Well, I was planned to be an artist. Look, this is a calder, a kind of calder. I was 6 months old, so I was an experiment, you know. From the early child, I was looking at modern art already. So I think this got into my brain. And one day my father said to me, you don't have to worry. You have a modern sensibility, which means never go wrong with you in terms of art. Because he prepared me. I think he had this in mind, you know, for sure. And okay, we had a good relationships from the beginning. We look at each other eyes. And I'm sure I was a good friend of him as he was a good friend of me. And I had I had the opportunity to meet famous people like Salvador Dalí, Pierre Boulez, many people in Europe when I was very young. That's a good thing because many times the artists, they think, oh, I'm going to get famous, I'm going to go. No, I saw there before when I was here. So I don't have any illusion about like Cinderella had, you know. I don't have this because I saw the reality when I was very, very, very young. I was a child. And I had this opportunity. That's something that it's unique. And the good things that I had access to his books. So I could have and watch them since my early childhood. And then for example, I chose Oscar Schlemmer from Bauhaus as my aesthetic master because of the books. And then I went and saw one film. I was 9 years old. So one thing you have to understand, the children, they are very clever. Don't think that children don't understand. They do. Much more than you can even think about. If you begin very early, you get the results. Like I am a result of this education.
So we've touched on this a little bit, but I think maybe there's a little bit more to say. I know when I was writing the catalogue essay, I was thinking a lot about Waldemar's initial background in Italy, having been born there in 1925, not really leaving till he was maybe 22, 23. He sort of then went to Brazil, and he had a Brazilian father, an Italian mother. So I wondered if you might say a little bit more about the Italian side of his personality.
Okay. This is his and his oldest brother. Her mother came from a rich background. She was married to the biggest coffee producer in the world. She went to Brazil very young, and she was very racist. And she did not eat the food of the cooker because she was black. So she was, you know, very Italian, this kind of not open person. And when he died, she went back to Rome. And then, from going to Brazil to Rome, she met the father of my father. And she did my father there, and she went pregnant to Brazil, to Rome, and he grew up without the father. And he worked with Federico Fellini in the Petit Rosso, that was a newspaper. And they both did caricatures. It's okay, caricatures? So of the soldiers, American soldiers, they were friends. And one day, Fellini came to my father and said, I have the impression your father is looking for you because there is an article in the newspaper. And it was right. His father was looking for him, and he published it in newspaper. And he said, if my son reads this, please answer through the journalist. So he looked for the journalist and had the contact with the father because the mother did not want him to be near the father. She was very authoritarian person. And then in silence, they settled he would go to Brazil. He bought the ticket for him in the boat. And I have at home this article, and then I have the answer he gave through the newspaper, and I have the list of the passengers of the boat he came to Brazil. So I have these 3 documents at home. And it's very curious how things went after war, everything was a mess, people looking for each other. And in Europe, he studied at Accademia delle Belle Arti, Rome. It was a very classical school, really classical. And this he did when he was 17, that he calls the contadina, means the woman that works on the soil, farmer. And because he used to spend his vacations in a small village near Rome, and where the mother had a big house and everything. So he did this kind of model painting, or this is charcoal. And then this is his first self-portrait when he was 18. A very dramatic, very classical. And this is velvet. The frame is velvet, green velvet, very classical. It's for you to have an idea what was for him to jump from this to this. So I don't have to tell you that he was very radical as a person. He used to say, when he finished the work, it's done, it's out. Let's go forward, always. I had a big work when I had to recover everything he put aside, as old. I was not old, all this. And then in Rome, they had a group, Santoro, Fellini, Julio Carlo Argam, all the intellectuals, and they founded this art club that was where all the artists from the whole Europe would go to look for a new art regarding they were building a new Europe. So they wanted a new art for the new world. And they had this, was a newspaper, it's a kind of small magazine, and always the abstract painting, new art. And when he came to Brazil, when he was 21 years old, he was one of the founders of this. There is a document of his name there. 20 years old, he was one of the founders. And then he was in charge to found in Brazil the art club in Brazil, Brazilian Art Club.
So that brings us then to the next question, which I'm really interested still in this particular moment in his life, his transition. Why do you think he took to Brazil so easily and made it his permanent home? And can you please tell us a little bit about Grupo Ruptura and its important legacy in terms of Brazilian cultural practices, really for the later decades? What was being broken? What was the rupture?
Well, and this is a translation, and it's very important what's written here, because they say, old art was great when it was intelligent. However, our intelligence cannot be the same as Leonardo's, Leonardo da Vinci's. History has taken a qualitative leap. There is no more continuity. That's very important, because he studied the vantage point, the perspective, everything the Renaissance brought to us. And the question was, if you break with the Renaissance tradition, what you have to put then as the basis of the theory of art? That was the rupture. What you have to put in not the Renaissance, but what? And then he began to work with visual gestalt principles. That's a Kafka book, he had 600 pages, and he brought this from Europe. And what the visual gestalt does? It studies how our eye and brain works. This was a neurological study, and visual gestalt was the first trend to watch the human being in this direction. It was science, it was not art. And nowadays you have this, I bought this book because it's very interesting. Visual intelligence is the continuation of the Gestalt nowadays, and it's a branch, a very strong branch of studies. And when I met the author of this book years ago in Chicago, in a seminar we had, I asked him, he gave a speech, and I asked him, did you ever saw the concrete artworks? And he said, no. I said, well, it's curious because what you are showing here are concrete artworks. But he was showing experiments of science. And for you to have an idea what this means, for example, here there is a principle that I take this from the teachings of my father. You have this diagonal red. He would call this the principle of similarities. I mean, all the red ones are similar between them. So you can see this diagonal because they are all equal. I mean, I made by hand, but it should be very equal distance points, blue, and then you have this line. And this is one principle with which one you can create many works. And if you sophisticate this, you can have the impression that the red is going forward, for example. You can even create the third dimension. So, for example, here, this is all similar. And then you create this line, a white line here, that goes behind the green and comes also again. It like creates the third dimension in your eye perception. This is what they were doing. They were creating from the very simple principles of the sight. They were creating complex works. And then you can, depending on how you see, depending who is looking at, you can see different works in the same work, but always based in a very clear principle that he tried to follow, strictly, really follow, not to do any decoration, just that thing plain there, And here, I remember yesterday, James said, oh, the white zigzag. But what is important? The background is the white. It is the white or the hexagons. But when you look, you see the white zigzag. That's a very interesting, it's here. That's a very interesting painting. And then you have the hot colors that are the yellow and the orange, and you have the cold colors, that the purple and the blue. So besides, then the white comes before, and then what? The yellow comes before the blue, or the blue comes before the white. So you can have 3 layers of perception. That's he's playing exactly with this principle of similarity. So these principles of the Gestalt were in place of the Renaissance theory. So what he was doing was not playing with. He was doing a scientific and a very well taught, very well solid work. It's not an experiment. This is great. I don't have to tell anything, just look. No, this is really great. So simple, isn't it? And if you turn, I cannot turn, but you can turn 90 degrees. You know what? You have another completely different painting when you turn it. It's very interesting, this is very, but I mean, I have to put this position because he signed it here. But as a daughter, I have I can't turn it 90 degrees, and I did it. And then these parallelograms, I don't know, they become very important. It's very interesting when you turn it. Okay, and this one. This one is very, very complex because you have this middle line, and then like here, you have a circle, but then you displace it. That this comes in the center of the little circle, and then everything begins to move, and you have 3 dimensions, you have movement, and you have the illusion of distance, because this look more closer than this, but it's the same measure. So this is a kind of game between the numerical distance and the visual perception. So this painting you can look for a long time. I'm not going to spend a long time, but it's right there. And this technique he called tira-linea. It was a kind of compass. It had a point of the compass to metal elements, metal pieces, and then he put the ink here, and this was going very slowly to the tree, and he could do this very thin lines, but sometimes could happen surprise. In this first work you have it. Not so controlled, then the ink went too much out, and you have noise. That's part of the work. He assumed it. The other principle is the principle of proximity, the distance. So you create empty spaces, putting different, distance between the elements. Like you create here, you create this element here. So you use the same graphic elements, but then you play with the distance. And let's see what can happen with the paintings. I'm going to quickly, but I know I have to say this to you, but I'm not going to teach you, know. Here. Okay. The center is empty, or is it a square twisted? You answer. You know, you answer. Are those lines friends? Is this a parallel that goes and everything in the middle? And then you have the third dimension here. Where is this third dimension going? Oh, here or more? So then you have a movement that goes beyond the frame of the work, that your eye see beyond the frame. And that's one of the reasons he did not frame it. He just put a square and leave open, because if you put a real frame, then you limit your eye. And this way you can see like, or you see? Then this is a great one. I think this belongs to Patricia Cisneros, yes? I'm not sure. I think this is a very famous work of him. Okay, I could look much more, but I want to go on. Here. Well, here is a structure that goes. You see? This can go, microscopically finished. Depends on your imagination, depends on your eye. Yes? So if you turn this 90 degrees goes up, depends. So, and then here you have also the thing of the background, the triangles game. And what happens is that the blue, the squares, they come off the screen. So this also is the thing of proximity, and then this is the game of turning. Well, this one is very interesting because then somehow it arrives to this point. And this is something that I think he was trying to solve, because if you look here, this could be in the middle here, exactly on the middle. I don't know why he just displaced the thick of the, I don't know why, but it's interesting how you form these, and then these, and then you have this movement. And then you don't know, it goes around, it doesn't, it's not an spiral. The painting is spiral, but the movement is absolutely ground. Oh, sorry. The movement is absolutely circular. You don't have an idea of a spiral that goes, no, you have this. So, this is, okay, what was the question?
So I think we could, it's like a dance for the eyes. We could really, it's very hypnotic, and we could talk about this for a very long time. So
yes.
I feel bad switching very suddenly to another, well, it's a related theme, which is about your father's political beliefs and his commitments, not least his commitment to Marxism. So if you don't mind making some connections for us, or correlations between his aesthetics and his political.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, there is something that's political, and then something that's deeply personal. Because Brazil is the country of corruption. It was, and is, it will be. No chance ever. And when he arrives from Italy, Italy is not, has corruption a lot, but it's a different kind of corruption, let's say. And how they deal with people. In Brazil, the worker is less than a dog. So somehow he was shocked how they treat simple people. And he began to work with gardens. So he had the workers. And he got in touch with the, how you say, this African culture that comes from low classes, and the indigenous beliefs, and the herbs, and all this knowledge, food. And he began to respect a lot because, for example, he had a worker, and he would go into the forest without shoes. And then my father said to him, why? There are snakes here. No snake is gonna to beat me. Snake bite me, because I am from an African religion that protects me, my body. And my father said, maybe he's right, because no snakes ever bite. And he went. So he began to get in touch with the, for European, this was a completely different word. So he began to talk and to, like saying those people were the real people who were building the country. And he was, from a Marxist point of view, but this was much more than political. This was his life, you know. And then one day, he, in 60, then he began to have really good relationships with those people in 53, when he began his work with landscape. He began to be with the workers, to grow plants and this. And then in 64, he did this, for example, it's an example. This work calls Freedom. Because in 62, they built the new capital of Brazil. In the capital, Brazil is like this, in the center of Brazil. In the center, they put the capital, where it was completely forest, because only the sea, where the sea touched, was the developed part of Brazil. And this president decided to do this new capital. And the workers that went there to build this capital had nowhere to live, because even if Oscar Niemeyer was Marxist, he didn't design the house for the workers in the city. So they built a city in wood. So when we arrived, I was with him, in Brasilia, we went by car, 1,000 kilometers. We go down, and then we see something like a powder, something strange. It's the city. Kind of red, imagine, cold, very hot, tropical sun, and that vision there. And then we are closer and closer, and we see there is a real city with butcher, school, libraries, everything in wood. So he took 2 pieces of wood from the houses, and then this is a piece of the wool of the truck, Ford truck. And this is the shower they had at home, those homes. This is the pan where they ate, they eat and eat the same place, this pan. And here is the profile of this president, that the father was Czechoslovakian, Kubitschek. And here is president, it's 60, the number, and here is written Buñuel, the Buñuel, the Spanish. And then he called this Freedom. That's a title that you don't know if it's freedom or prison. It's double meaning, And I didn't know what was this, but then Christine said to me yesterday, maybe it's a flag, because the red flag for the Marxists, it's key. So this work was the way he would talk for these workers. And this is from 64. 64 was the year of when the dictatorship began in Brazil. So imagine, he comes from Mussolini's to a country where he thinks he's gonna have freedom, and then 64, this dictatorship that killed thousands of people, especially intellectuals. So it was not too happy for him. And then again here, people. This work of people, it's very interesting, because here you have the vantage point. Here you have the Renaissance theory, from the big to the small. It's interesting how he picked this. And this is common people. So he didn't choose something special, just people. It was not by chance, I think. And here are the 2 last works he did. I want to tell a little bit of this. This calls Pirambu. Pirambu are the houses that were built with the foundation in the water. Tropical country, so hot, and then you build this. There is no earth; it's water. And then they invited him. The government invited him as a famous urbanist to what? To propose the construction of regular houses. Then the government could sell the house and earn money from these poor people. When my father arrived there and saw it, he said, but this is perfect. What you as government have to do is to clean the water, because they don't have bathrooms. They don't have, the system of... Sewage. Okay. They don't have this, so you have to build for them. They were angry, and they paid him and sent him out. But meanwhile, he photographed the houses, and then he did this tribute to those people. During those were the last 2 works he did in his life, called Pirambu, and the name is very indigenous. And he didn't change it. He said, I want this name. I don't mind if it's Europe or America or Asia. The name is Pirambu. So that's the word, Pirambu.
Just on top of that, I think it's probably worth pointing out that, as you did indicate, Cordeiro began to work professionally as a landscape gardener and as an urban architectural designer from the early 50s onwards. And then he also started increasingly to use industrial materials within his work. I wonder if you could say a bit more about that.
Yes, well, I was born and he had to earn money. So a friend of him that was the president of Communist Party, an architect called Artigas, he proposed him to draw gardens. And here you have an example of concrete gardens, let's say, beautiful gardens. He began in houses, and then he went to doing buildings. He was going and then clubs, and then he was planning cities. I mean, he wanted to begin very small, but bigger areas. And this is something I want to say. This is where he grew the plants. There is a question about ecology, and I'm going to talk about this now. He was always happy to be in a country where everything grows so easily, because Brazil, in terms of agriculture, it's a phenomenon. You just have an orange, you put and then a tree comes out. It's very easy. And then he decided to go inside the forests to take the original plants and to leave them inside another forest. And he bought this. That's where he lived and we lived. It's near, we lived here, and here's this original virgin forest. And he planted the things inside, the plants. And the plants grow inside their own environment, let's say. He didn't change the environment. Then, if the garden needed, he took directly from it to put in the garden of the house. So he began. Then that's how this word ecology didn't have at that time. And then he was still working on concrete art and with the gardens, and he was looking for an industrial, because concrete art refers to industrial life. The Industrial Revolution came to Brazil in the 50s, 50 years later than England. And then he found, this is the industrial brush. He put this in the back, and they use this to put poison, the plants. And then he said, you know what? I'm going to put the ink. He put the ink, and he did works like this one that is much more concrete than those ones actually saying, because this is made with industrial. It's not so precise mathematically, but it's done with an industrial brush. So in a sense, it is much more industrial. Oh, okay.
So that was what we might call a different approach to materiality, but it was evolving from within. I mean, he was using different enamels and different types of...
Well, that That is tempera. Tempera. How say this in English?
Yeah, tempera.
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 Tempera is a very Italian old system of painting.
Yeah.
The blue one is oil. The white is oil. Then this is tempera, and this one of the white zigzag is tempera too. So this is tempera, and those one were the industrial brushing.
So would this be a good moment to maybe talk a little bit about the works behind us?
Oh yes. When he finished the concrete phase, he began to paint. He took the brush again, and he called those works, those three works, intuitive geometry. And this one especially, you cannot see maybe, is very much, looks like a garden. Then he began to use the Brazilian colors, because the flowers in Brazil are not rose. The flowers in Brazil are red, yellow, and when it's blue, it's a dark blue. Most of the tropical flowers have like there is one called Strelitzia that is pointed. It's not rose, it's not round. The flowers have another shape. So he began introducing the chromatic vocabulary of tropical country, not on the blue, the red, and the yellow, the colors. But then he began like here, orange, rose, and then that's the red that's not so red, and then two blues. He began to work with other colors. But still, if you want, you can draw this geometrically. There is a geometrical point of view always. You know, this thing about Gestalt is something doesn't mean geometry, but means you understand how the eye of the person will look at your work. That's the clue. Okay.
Great. And then I think to leave room for questions, we'll maybe just quickly come to our final question. And in a way, I first got drawn into looking at Cordeiro's work when I realized there was someone in the 60s and 70s who was already connecting technology and ecology and distances, and had a sort of a visionary, a holistic approach to these issues that often get compartmentalized. And of course, what we see in the works to my right are his early computer works, which are incredibly pioneering. Will you maybe tell us a little bit about those works before we open to the floor?
Wait. I'm going to jump here. Wait. Oh, this is the work at Venice Biennale that they choose the geometrical. Okay. He began with working in the end of 67. He began to work with statistics. He was interested in the intelligibility of the eye, how much the eye can see and understand. For example, here, you have these rules, you can move. So how much your eye can still see the letters you moving. So this is something that he was researching. And then he came out with numbers. Really, he wanted to quantify this. And then he came to his self-portrait. That caused the probabilistic self-portrait. So from the one he had in the beginning till this one, you can have an idea of his mind traveling. And this is a binary yes or no. This says yes or no. And then you, as you walk around, you change. And this is very much him, because he was always yes or no, never maybe. His personality. One day, I'm going to tell you, one day I introduced to him my boyfriend. And I said, oh, this is my father, okay. Next day in the breakfast, he said, hi, did you like my boyfriend? He said to me, you don't distinguish the black from the white. Then I realized that he did not like him, but look at the answer. He was like that. So he said, that's his words. You can read in digital art, digits number, the message is numerically processed and reach a higher degree of precision. Historical examples of digital are Seurat, analytical cubism, suprematism, neoplasticism, all constructivism and concrete art. So he began relating to history. In digital art, a physical magnitude is represented by a number in probabilistic statistical terms that do not exclude resorting to chance. Well, this phrase is what is today also. Artificial intelligence, everything is based on probability and chance. Why chance? Chance because when you have two elements, the same, like weight, let's say, you use the chance because it doesn't matter if you choose one or other. So chance and probability are, from the very beginning till now, the basis of the, I don't know how you say now, but technological art. And he did this, he wrote this in 1609, so more than half a century ago, which just means he really saw, he could see the future. And this is what he did. He did not have a scanner. He did not even have a plotter in the beginning. The computer had 5 megabytes of storage and 256 kbytes of memory. Can you imagine this? This was a real challenge, how to do art with this computer. So he would take a photo and do this. This was a cliche, I don't know how to say in English, technique from the epoch, the moment. He would go and put a paper of squares, and each square he would see how much of black or white. So 5 is more white than 4, it's less white. 3 is more black, probably this one. And then 1, it's when it's very, very black, I don't know, here. So he would do manually, scanning manually. And he had a person work for him at his office. He was Japanese. And he said, oh, only a Japanese can do this. It's true, it's patience and hours. And then he would put each line a card, a punched card, that was used at that time. I don't have images, but for young people, it's like Paleolithic age. And then the cards would print, then there was a program, then he would transform the number in an amount of black and white, and then comes out the image. That's the image. And then after this, he would do a program to work with the image. So what is this? For example, this is the Valentine's, and then this. This is the result of, this is the first scanning, this is the result. So when there is a difference, for example, here is white, okay? Here was dark. When there is a difference, the program, he puts a black. He was simulating our retina. Retina?
Retina.
How do you see this frame? Because here you have light, here you don't. So this difference in your eye, processed by your brain, all of us, this sees this line. So he was like doing the line. When you draw something, you do a line that separate objects. Yes, that's what he was doing, programming. But then this is thing, nobody ever did this before. And most of the computer artists, they work with geometry. Almost nobody works with people or this kind of images. So he was a real pioneer. And you have to understand this. This is very interesting. Let me see. Well, this is the original photo. He take a part. This was the idea of the New York MoMA's curator. He said, you have to always show the two ones. Then this he took in this part. And then here you see on the back, here there is the scanning, the pure scanning. And then the program was choosing by chance, but at random points, but only 27%, because if he chose by random 28%, you could not recognize the image again. So that's the intelligibility. How much can you destroy without destroying? And this was a Vietnamese during the Vietnamese War. So the message is clear, isn't it? So this work belongs to, I don't know, MoMA and other museums. It's very iconic. And the name, it's the woman that's not Brigitte Bardot. And he loved Brigitte Bardot. He said this. The mouth of Brigitte Bardot, the breasts of Brigitte Bardot, the eyes of Brigitte Bardot. Wow, wow. And in '71, he did this exhibition that calls Arte Única, means art plus electronica. It's electronics. It's a name he created. And the catalog are just the sheets are separated in an envelope. It's not a book. And then his final message is the obsolescence of traditional communication. Oh, just a moment, there was no internet. Just make your mind. The absence of the traditional communication system of art, it's not only art, it's in the limited consumption, implicit in the nature of the transmission medium. Due to the limited number of possible viewers, the high costs, the geographic limitations, and the technical difficulties, the traditional communication system of art fails to live up to the qualitative and quantitative cultural demands of a modern society. Okay, we understand this now, because we are internet moment, and we are now here. I'm talking just for a few of years. I'm so happy that personally, but if I was internet, I don't know, they don't listen to internet, they put on and they go do other things, but I mean, anyway, and the costs of coming, of exportation, of everything, that's what he was talking about. And then he says that a second tendency of electronic art is to creating interdisciplinary works. So he saw the internet, and he saw the interdisciplinary works by taking advantage of scientific research and discoveries in neurology and psychology. Then he mentioned the Gestalt, processing image with the aid of computer. Typically syntactical, because there was this semantic syntactic division in the language analysis. This tendency falls within the range of concrete art developed in the historical conditions of the first industrial revolution, suprematism, neoplasticity, constructivism, and so on, which created a machine language for the urban and industrial society to communicate. So he kept his beginning till the end. You know, his mind was following a line. He was not crazy, broken, and doing experiments at random. In this sense, we can highlight the evident similarities between concrete art and computer art. So that's the end.
Well, thank you so much. I'll ask everyone to just join in thanking Analivia for that wonderful. And I believe you're willing to answer some questions.
Yes, please.
Hello, Brady. I have a kind of a personal question for you. You were in London with your father for the cybernetic serendipity show here. Could you remember either your impressions or impressions of your father about that show? Because that show was very important for many other shows that happened after that. Not just in the Western world, but also in Latin America.
Well, my impression, they had the dinosaur. And as a kid, I was so impressed with the dinosaur. For me, I remember this. And for my father was kind of the basis for him, because he was already studying mathematics. Well, he never did a college, actually. And he studied things as things came. And I don't know why he bought Russian books of mathematics and had a teacher. This is 66, 67, that would come home to teach him mathematics and probability, all this. And he knew already the Giorgio Moscati, that was the physics. They were beginning to think. When he saw the cybernetic serendipity, he said, that's it. I have where to belong to. Because, can you imagine in Brazil, he was completely isolated. So for him was the confirmation that he was going on the right direction. And the exhibition was great. It was really great. No, I have the catalog, and sometimes I look at the catalog, and I say, they had a quality that you don't find today. I mean, each work was a creation. And what you have to know is that I was also one of the beginners of this art technology. We were all together. We were collaborating with each other. When my father died, I received letters. Oh, keep going your work. What are you doing? And nobody was fighting against on the contrary. What do you need? The technical help. Everybody was together. And this was one of the main things that for him, thank you for your question. Yeah, that's the question. Thank you. So, is there any other question? Yes.
Analivia, can you tell us if he has a relationship with the real artists, the neo-Gothic, Japap, or Tishifa, or they were signed, they were fighting, what's their relationship?
They were friends. The new concrete, Rio de Janeiro is a city that is completely different than São Paulo. São Paulo is a city where people produce the things. And Rio de Janeiro is a place where they consume the things. They don't produce it. So they spend more money, let's say. And the difference between them is that the concrete art made in São Paulo were made from poor people, like Saciloto, he worked as building windows. Volpe was painting walls. And Lygia Clark, she was wife of a very rich man. Oiticica, no, he was okay, but most of them have more money. So there was a difference on this level, but for example, my father went very well with Oiticica, for example. And what happens that Ferreira Goulart, the theorist, I'm going to tell theoretically, then I'm going to tell my personal opinion. Theoretically, he said that they were going in the organic direction, as the concrete art from São Paulo was going in towards the rational direction. Well, somehow our head, our brain is part of our body, isn't it? We are not rational or organic. We are both. So there is no fight. But there was a little thing that I'm going to say to you in an intimate. And my father was very beautiful. So there was something there for me that, it's more than art here. So that's my personal point of view, okay? Don't take it seriously, but I'm sharing with you. And they were not against each other. And there was a dialogue, especially Hélio Oiticica and my father. Because my father, he had family, he had a house and a wife and children. Oiticica, no. He would call my father 1 a.m, and I don't know what they were talking on the other side, but there was no mobile phone. So rang the phone, I was sleeping, I said, well, what's that? And then he said to him, no, Hélio, no, this way, no, it's not good for your health, no. I don't know what he was doing on the other side, what he was saying on the other side, but something was very personal. And he died 51 years old, Hélio. So they had, and at the end, they were in the same boat. This kind of neo-concrete or not is a kind of, they pose questions very interesting. Those questions of organic or rational, it's very interesting, but doesn't mean opposition. That's the point. So,
Any more questions? I think it has to be the final one.
I just wanted to quantigraphy with and all the technological advancements, scientific advancements, everything that's gone on politically in the world in the last 50 years or so. If he had lived, where you think his practice would have started to concentrate more on?
Well, he was a person that had this humanistic point of view, always. And he said to me once, never depends on the money of your artwork. Then you have the freedom to create. In a way, he was right. Because if you have the pressure, you don't have the freedom. And what I think would be his concern is about the freedom today, because all those technology impose so much rules for us to communicate. For example, the conceptual art took the frame off, and then comes the video, and the video has a rectangular frame. It's not even a square frame or a round frame. Look, this is a prison for the brain. So the maximum people do is horizontal or vertical, even not diagonal rectangle. So look, this is something that, struggles our power of communication. And if you don't put your life in a video, forget. You don't exist. So he would, as an artist, he would go into those rules. And, I don't know what he would say, radical as he was, but for sure he would go into this human relationship with technology. Which doesn't mean that he's against it. He's just questioning,
Thank you again, Analivia. I almost hesitate to say that this whole event has been videoed. Completely right, we will be going into a video. We are in a video. There will be a video, I'm not sure where or how, but it will emerge. But before we end, can I just thank the Mayor Gallery again for the most fantastic production and celebration in a way of Waldemar's practice, his oeuvre. also Analivia, again, for the most absolutely inspiring talk, and all of you for coming along. I hope you will feel free to mingle and look at the exhibition now, and thanks very much again.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
That's it.